Dr. Bill Crawford here, psychologist, speaker, author of 8 books, host of 2 PBS specials, here again to bring you another tip on how to help you create the life you want, how to bring more clarity, confidence, and creativity into everything you do. Today, I want to talk about the subject of criticism. You know, as a psychologist, as a speaker, trainer, I work a lot with leaders and managers and supervisors and parents whose job it is to correct other people's mistakes. What often happens, however, is what they do is they start to tell the person what they're doing wrong. While that seems to make sense, the other person doesn't hear that and go, "Whoa, thank you for sharing. I feel so much better now." They often get resistant. They often start defending the very behavior you're trying to get them to change. And so what I like to do is help people understand the brain science around all that. For those of you who know my life from the top of the mind philosophy, I've created a philosophy, a system that kind of shows people how to understand how the brain works and use that to become more effective. So we got the lower brain called the brainstem going down the back of the neck. Middle brain's called the limbic system. Upper 80% of the brain's called the neocortex. I call it top of the mind, middle brain, lower brain to make it simple. The middle brain's kind of interesting. It acts as a gatekeeper. It gets information first. And it also acts as a scanner, a processor, and a router. So it scans information and other people's behavior or trying to get them to change it. It's just data, behavior. It's just information. And then routes it either down to the lower brain or up to the upper 80% of the brain. Unfortunately, this middle brain isn't very smart, and it's working with old software. So it has a tendency to mistake almost anything negative as dangerous and throws us into the part of the brain that's designed to deal with danger. That's where we get angry, stressed, frustrated, annoyed, worried, confused, depressed, etc. So what we don't want to do is trust this middle brain to interpret somebody else's resistance or our attempt to change their behavior is throwing us into this old reactive brain. We want to go to the top of the mind. And the way to do that, I think, is to look at the concept of criticism and decide, is this really working for me? Is this serving me? Is it helping me create the result I'm looking for? There is a quote that I'm sending out to those 6,000 folks on my quote list. By the way, if you'd like to receive one of my favorite quotes each week, all you got to do is go to my website, billcrawfordphd.com, hit the subscribe button, put your name, email address in there, and each week I will send you one of my favorite quotes, along with 2 or 3 paragraphs about how to apply that quote to life, and it's free. So this one is from Carl Jung. He says, criticism is only valuable when there's something to be destroyed. It only creates harm when there's something to be built or constructed. I like that. And that's why I like the concept of constructive criticism being kind of an oxymoron. It's often more destructive than it is constructive. We're trying to get them to stop some behavior, stop lying, stop beating around the bush, stop blaming others, stop procrastinating, whatever it is we're trying to get them to stop comes across as criticism. That throws them into the resistant brain. See, one of the things we got to know is not only do we need to be in the top of the mind, but we need to make sure that we're engaging people where they are not kind of driven deeper into that resistant brain. I call it the lesson of the fist. You know, that fist tightens down and they just go like a little kid. So what we want to do instead is, okay, am I trying to stop something or do I really want to start something? So we focus, if we can, less on what we're trying to stop and what we're wanting them to start differently. One of the ways of doing that is starting with their intent and their character. If someone made a mistake or did something that produced some weird results, we could say, hey, I'm sure you didn't mean to do that. And that's not really who you are. And then we can kind of go to, you can say, and what it sounds like is you'd probably like to do that differently in the future. And then we could ask a question. Questions are almost always more powerful than statements. We could say, okay, so I'm just curious, knowing what you know now, how would you do that differently in the future? See, there's no shame in the future. There's no blame in the future. Most people go, well, gosh, I don't know. I guess I do more of that, or less of this, or I do this differently, or whatever. But see, they're no longer trying to feel bad about the past. I talk about a mistake being a mistake. It's an action that we took or they took that missed. Did you know the original meaning of the word sin was an archery term? It meant to miss the mark. So we're not trying to get them to feel shame or blame others. That's a fight or flight. Blame is fight, shame is flight. about making the mistake or doing something that was ineffective. We're wanting them to say, okay, that's not who I am. I didn't mean to do that. And if I were choosing to do it in a more productive way, here's what I would do differently. So now you're creating a discussion about what to build, what to construct, not what to tear down. This is great when you're talking with somebody who's one of your supervisees or somebody that reports to you or one of your kids, because they're really hoping that you see the best in them, not trying to stop the worst in them. Now, for many of us, we didn't grow up with this particular type of correction. And this is not about blaming parents. You know, I had parents, they kind of told me what I was doing wrong. I didn't grow up with any terrible scars. But I don't remember going away from one of those sessions going, you know, I learned a really wonderful life lesson here today. I just kind of said, Bill, you need to get better at not getting caught, buddy. That's the problem here. And I, unfortunately, as a teenager, I got really good at not getting caught. That's not what you want them to get good at. You want them to get good at learning from what didn't work. But it's not about trying to stop something. It's about trying to start something. And you start something from their intent, knowing they didn't just go in there meaning to do this. Or if they did, they probably recognize now it's not a good idea. And their character. Who are they at their best? By the way, this is part of the system I created. How do you get to the top of the mind? How do you stay there? And how do you get other people to shift from what I call the resistant brain to the receptive brain? This is what I get to do. I get to go around the world teaching my system, life from the top of the mind. If you want me to come to your organization, work with you as a coach, whatever, again, all you got to do is go to my website, billcrawfordphd.com, or just Google Bill Crawford. I'll come up on the first page. Hit the contact button. Let me know what you're interested in. Love to talk with you about that. In the meantime, here's to you. Bring more clarity, confidence, creativity into everything you do. When you're really wanting to construct something, you probably don't want to use criticism, which is a destructive way of engaging people. More clarity, confidence, creativity into everything you do. And I look forward to seeing you in the future.